Hey, what's up guys? It's Luke, Black Sheep 217 on Pokemon the Trading Card Game online and on Facebook at Zoom Battle Gym, where I'm building a community there. We just started hosting some tournaments, giving away some prizes to the winners. It's a whole lot of fun. So if you want to be a part of that, just let me know by messaging me here or join over there. Whatever you do, we'd love to have you. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Today I'm talking about Unseen Depths. This deck is really pretty awesome. To be honest with you, it is a really good deck. I don't know how I got it, but I actually had this deck for a while, and I never really bothered playing it until I was trying to find a counter for all the fire decks that I was encountering online when I was playing theme deck tournaments and theme deck games and just trying to win some games. I would always face either Relentless Flame or the new Vivid Voltage Charizard deck, or even the Entei deck. So these are decks that you would see out there, especially the Charizard based ones, quite often, and this deck does a number on those decks. It is a really good counter for those, but what I found was it actually works really well against every other deck as well. It's just a very strong deck. I don't hear a whole lot about Unseen Depths, and I don't know why, because when I play this deck, I have a ton of fun, and I can just imagine the opponent getting frustrated at some of the things that happen when I play this deck. It is a really, really good deck. The front of the box features a strong basic Pokemon called Kyogre, but Kyogre is definitely not the star of this deck. The star of this deck is Empoleon. Empoleon is incredible. For just one energy, he can completely just wreck your opponent, and we'll learn about Empoleon in a little bit. You can see Psyduck behind me there. Psyduck is also featured in this deck. Golduck, another great Pokemon. So this deck just has a lot of surprises that are unseen, right? Unseen Depths, that's what this deck is called. And so it just can really surprise your opponent. So many good Pokemon in this deck. Let's go ahead and talk about this deck. We're going to go in depth about this deck, just like I always do with these longer strategy review type things. I'm going to start with the Pokemon, and then I'm going to move on to the trainers. Then I'm going to go on to what I wish would happen with this deck, some things I wish were different. We're going to go over strategies, strengths, weaknesses, and give it an overall grade. So we got a lot to go through. Sit down, strap yourselves in, and let's really dive into this deck. Okay, switching over to the computer view, we're going to take a look at Empoleon. And I was talking about Empoleon already, and just how incredible this Pokemon is. Now, it is a Stage 2 Pokemon, but this deck has the ability to get to Empoleon without too much trouble. As long as you're really going for it, you can do that. Check this out. He has the Recall ability. And so just for one colorless energy, doesn't even have to be a water energy, for one colorless energy, he can use any of the previous evolution's attacks. So let's go ahead and just flip back a little bit. We got Prinplup with the Water Drip for 20, which you're never going to use that one. But we have Direct Dive. This is incredible. Check this out. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 100 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. That's going to knock a lot of their bench out, especially if they're basic Pokemon, or they're going to do a ton of damage to some scarier Pokemon that's on their bench, or it's going to knock out Pokemon that have already been damaged and totally wipe them out. That is great. Now, if it's on Prinplup here, you'll see that it takes 3 water energy, and to use it, you got to discard all 3 of those energy. That's not good. That is not good at all. So when we get to Prinplup, we'll talk about that a little bit. But when we're talking about Empoleon, we're talking about 1 energy to make this attack happen, and then just discarding that 1 energy to make it happen instead of 3. So that's incredible. Now, the other ability that he has for attacking is the Bubble Hole from Piplup. And again, this was a 3-cost attack that only costs 1, deals 80 damage, and if the defending Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, it cannot attack during the next turn. Ow! Yeah, that is some serious attack. So that's crazy. Empoleon's Recall, Nas, and T. It is nasty. Okay, and if in case you need to do even more damage, especially to the active Pokemon, you can use Aqua Fall. It's only 2 energy to like sort of engage, 130 damage, and then of course you have to discard all that energy. But it's probably gonna be worth it to deal 130, and then the next turn, if you have more energy, you can just use Recall again, Direct Dive, Bubble Hold. He just does a lot. This is like a hugely scary Pokemon to face, and check out the HP on Empoleon. 160. 160. He's one tough mother. Okay, the next Pokemon we're going to talk about is Fion. Now, Fion doesn't look like much. Fion has 70 HP, which is nice. You know, a lot of Pokemon that are just like your regular basic Pokemon just have 60. He has 70, and that actually makes a huge difference because it makes Fion just that much more, you know, that much more in the active zone. That means he can stay in the active zone without dying as fast, which is great because, you know, with 60 HP, sometimes one hit can deal 60 damage and they're gone. At least with Fion, they'll be there for a little bit longer. Rain Splash for just 10, it's not much. It's just poking. It's just poking at the opponent. So why is Fion in my good Pokemon list? Well, really 2 reasons. One, the Whirlpool Suction ability. Let me read that to you. It says, once during your turn before you attack, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may have your opponent switch their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. If you do, discard all cards attached to this Pokemon and put it on the bottom of your deck. So, he's like a mini Switch, not as good as not a Switch, but like a Pokemon catcher in a way. Not as good because you don't get to select the Pokemon you want, but it gets rid of your opponent's active Pokemon. Great for stalling, and you know what? Fion doesn't discard. They go into your deck. So oftentimes I'll have cards that can draw out Pokemon, and Fion comes right back to the dismay of the opponent. The other thing is, if Fion is in the active spot and you're kind of soaking up damage with him, the other thing that I was saying that was great about Fion is Fion has a retreat cost. So you can just run him away, and if he has damage, you can actually then use the ability Whirlpool Suction to get him out of there. All that damage is negated, and he's back in the deck. Fresh to use again. I think Fion can really be game-breaking because of the Whirlpool Suction ability. This especially comes in handy if the opponent only has one bench Pokemon. This is essentially a Pokemon catcher. It makes the opponent switch a Pokemon to use. That can be absolutely huge. Fion can really surprise opponents if they don't see Fion coming. So maybe save it in your hand, or just use the ability when they least expect it. Blow your opponent away. Ambipom. When I first saw the art for this card, I was like, this is probably going to be a lame Pokemon. But then when I read the attacks that Ambipom has, I was like, oh my gosh, this Pokemon is just insane. Let's talk about Nice Catch first, because it's the worst of the 2 abilities, or attacks, but it's still really great. Nice Catch, for 1 colorless energy, you're drawing 2 cards. That's great. Just a great little thing. If you need cards, you can use that to get a couple more cards in your hand. Of course, getting more cards, drawing more cards is so crucial in Pokemon the trading card game. It's just a big part of the game, and having more cards than your opponent gives you way more options. But check out Bye Throw. 2 colorless energy, and the attack can do 60 damage per card you discard that way. And you can do up to 2, so the max damage Ambipom can do is 120. Not that many lower level Pokemon can survive Bye-Bye Throw. And if you're really aggressive and you get Ambipom out quickly, he can just Bye-Bye Throw everybody and just annihilate. And remember, if a Pokemon has 60 HP, you don't have to discard 2 cards, just discard 1 to do 60 damage, and Bye-Bye Throw, they are gone. So Ambipom is such a good Pokemon. I've won many a game just with Ambipom being very aggressive using Bye-Bye Throw. And check it out, he's also got 100 HP, which ain't too shabby either. Golduck. Golduck is a really nice Pokemon. So Ambipom at 100 HP, Golduck is 110, and each one of those little 10 HPs more than some of the Pokemon, they make a big difference. But overall, I think Golduck is a very strong contender, very, very powerful and good Pokemon. Not powerful, but like, just a Pokemon you'd love to have. I just love having Golduck on my bench or in my active area because he can deal damage, he can take some damage, and he's just overall very versatile. So first of all, the scratch for only 1 colorless energy deals 30 damage. That's a nice cost to damage ratio. Only 1 for 30 damage. Pretty good. Now the energy loop is really cool. For 2, he can do 80 damage. 2 for 80 damage. You can, in 2 hits, typically knock out Pokemon. Or if it's the Charizard from Relentless Flame, 1 hit from Golduck will knock out the Relentless Flame Charizard. So I think Golduck is a huge star. He can be a huge star against fire decks, but otherwise he is a very, very strong Pokemon, just plain, without having to say anything else. Okay, now we're going to get into the decent Pokemon. These Pokemon aren't as good as the one I just mentioned. Okay, they're not as good as those ones, but they're decent. Here's Aipom. Aipom is the basic version of Ambipom and has 60 HP. I've had Ambipom get knocked out before just because I faced like a fighting Pokemon and they've gotten a couple energies quickly on a fighting Pokemon and just destroyed me. It happens. It's okay. Ambipom, though, has a Tail Smack that does 20 for 2, and so that's not terrible because you want 2 energy on Aipom, especially when they evolve to Ambipom, because 2 energy gives you that Bye-Bye Throw ability. But the one kind of unique thing about Aipom is the Scampering Tail. Using this ability every turn, you can actually put the top card of your opponent's deck on the bottom. Now you might be wondering, what good is that? Why would I want to even do that? Well, like in Blazing Volcano with Entei and Magcargo, Magcargo has an ability to actually stack the deck and put cards that you want on the top of the deck. And what happens is your opponent, who uses that strategy, gets to draw that deck, so they actually get to craft their deck to specifically get you. They're going to take you out. With Aipom, Aipom says, no, I'm going to take that card that you put there to draw, and I'm going to put it on the bottom of the deck. And that is, it's kind of like metagaming against those types of decks. So he's really, really good at that. You get 3 Aipoms. You always see Aipom when you're playing this deck in your hand or something like that. So a decent Pokemon, not great, very good against specific strategies, but overall, he's okay. Psyduck. Psyduck's my favorite Pokemon of all time. Unfortunately, he just has 60 HP, so he's not very strong. His first attack is Scratch, which only does 10 damage, so again, kind of a sad, not that strong attack. The Confusion Wave is where things get a little bit interesting for me, because I will use the Confusion Wave. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't just confuse the opponent, it confuses Psyduck as well. But I think it's worth it, because at that point, I'm trying to really just stall. And if your opponent's confused, they have to flip a coin heads before they can even attack. So I think it's well worth doing just to stall, because with Psyduck, you're really looking for Golduck. And once you get Golduck down on the table, if Psyduck is confused, that confusion goes away. And so you can just start kicking ass with Golduck. So Psyduck, he's decent. I mean, I would put him out there if necessary. He can poke a little bit, but you're really waiting for Golduck with Psyduck. But thankfully he does have a little bit of ability to keep him alive and do a little bit of damage. Kyogre. Now Kyogre looks like an awesome Pokemon. Look at the foil gleaming off Kyogre there. This is the one Pokemon that you see on the front of the box if you buy this deck at the store. I gotta talk about High Water. See, I would love to start Kyogre if High Water lets you get maybe just 1 energy out of the deck and 2 from the discard pile, but it only allows you to get from the discard. So you can't start powering up Kyogre very well at the beginning of the game. He's more of a mid-game sort of Pokemon to put out there. Plus his attack takes 4 energy and you have to discard a card when you use it. So he's definitely not that cost effective. He's hard to charge up and power up. So he can be good if you do that. He's actually, won me some games because I've had him charged up in the mid-game, and he can be very fearsome and very strong. But at the same time, if he's your starting Pokemon, you're just going to be sitting there for a while, not doing anything, because you're going to be hoping to get energy packed onto him, because that's what you have to do with Kyogre. Prinplup. I was this close to putting Prinplup into the lame category. I'm not a huge fan of Prinplup. I mean, you're just really trying to get to Empoleon with this guy. I mean, to be honest, that's what you're trying to do. He has 80 HP, which is just okay for a stage 1. I mean, I might not even be okay. He's like kind of mediocre for stage 1. Water Drip for 1. At least he can attack. That's what I can say. At least he can scratch out for 20. The Direct Dive for 3 energy is just too cost effective. Unless like it's going to win you the game somehow and you can figure out a way for it to work, then maybe Direct Dive is something you can do, but I don't see you using Direct Dive with Prinplup very often. You're really just using him as a placeholder for Empoleon. But he is a better placeholder than the previous evolution, Piplup. So we'll talk about Piplup a little bit later. Okay, this Pokemon, Pyukumuku, is a decent Pokemon. I'm going to actually put Pyukumuku into the situational Pokemon. The reason why is, this is a great starter Pokemon for the Call for Family attack. He can actually get up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them on the bench. Really, really nice to start. They've also got 70 HP. Again, I think over 60 is going to be in the decent range. So, Pyukumuku is going to help you get started. That's really nice. But I think the icing on the cake for Pyukumuku is Surprise Fist. If you're really not able to get what you want out and Pyukumuku is stuck in the active spot, you can actually build him up to get Surprise Fist out, which deals at the minimum 60 damage. If you win Rock, Paper, Scissors against your opponent, you get 60 more for just 3 damage. That's 120 damage for 3 energy, potentially. And it's not one of those flip your coin sort of situations where you could potentially get 0 damage done. I hate that. No. Pyukumuku lets you just get the base 60 or 60 more if you win that Rock, Paper, Scissors. That's awesome. So I think he's great in terms of, the early game. As the game goes on and you already have some evolutions out, Pyukumuku becomes way, way less useful. So that's kind of the reason I put him in to the situational category. Okay, we've made it to the lame Pokemon, and there's only one left. It's Piplup. Piplup. What can I say about Piplup? 80 damage, but it costs 3 energy to power up. Only 60 HP. All you want for Piplup is to upgrade Piplup to Empoleon. That's the only thing he's there for. I would not advise attacking with him because it costs too much. And, his attack as the Bubble Hold means, he's got to stay in there for 3 turns to power up. I just don't see that happening with a Pokemon with just 60 HP. Now the good thing is, it only costs a 1 retreat cost to go away. So in that way, it's a little bit better. I feel a little bit better about that, but I don't have tons and tons of uses for Piplup other than taking up space, used as an energy soak. He just needs to turn into Empoleon as quick as he can. Okay, our next section is about the trainer cards. And this deck has some interesting trainer cards that you don't see in every other deck. Let me just go ahead and name off the top trainer cards for you, okay? I have these in 3 tiers: top trainers, mid trainers, and bottom trainers. Now this deck has no bottom trainers. They're all at least in the mid tier. So let's go ahead and go over them. Pokemon Communications, top. Actually, all these will be top, okay? Switch, Hal, Lily, Pokemon Fan Club, Roller Skater, Tate and Lisa, Cynthia, Draw Energy, and there's only one mid, and that's the Viridian Forest. Okay, that's the only mid I've put there. So let's figure out some of these energies, why they're more notable than others. Okay, we're going to start with Pokemon Communication. Pokemon Communication is a key trainer card. When I play this deck, I use it all the time. You got Golduck, you got Empoleon, Piplup, and others that you want to kind of evolve into. But because there's so many different evolutions in this deck, Pokemon Communication is perfect for having something you can't use and changing it for something that you can. So if I need to turn a Psyduck into a Golduck, and I have an extra Psyduck sitting in my hand, this card lets me go in and trade the Psyduck goes into the deck and has, you know, the card I need come out. That is great for a deck that has so many options. You're going to need a way to get those options out. Pokemon Communication, that's the way to do it. Let's just move through these. Switch, of course, is really key. You know, this deck is not great in terms of energy. You really need energy in this deck, and sometimes I feel like I don't have as much. I don't want to throw an energy away by retreating, even though it only would cost me 1 for a lot of these Pokemon. Switch is absolutely great, and it only costs, or not costs, it's free, but it's an item, so you can use it multiple times. If you have the 2 of them in your hand, it's a good card. The Viridian Forest is the one card I put in the mid-level, because I don't know, for whatever reason, you have enough cards in this deck that kind of recycle or draw more cards, or you constantly have the ability to get more water energy. So the Viridian Forest does help in a pinch. I just don't know if it was absolutely necessary to put this card in rather than something else. Okay, Cynthia, of course, shuffling your hand into your deck, then drawing 6 cards. That's great. Hal, drawing 3 cards, also great. Lily, drawing until you have 6 cards or 8 on your first turn. All of these draw mechanic cards are extremely important, and I would say they're all top level, because whenever I see these types of cards in my hand, I'm very happy. It lets me know that I can extend my hand, make it bigger, and use it a whole lot more. Pokemon Fan Club, sometimes I put this in like the mid tier, but this deck, you're always wanting to get these Pokemon out to upgrade them. So you're always wanting to look for Psyduck, Piplup, Apom, all these basic Pokemon you're going to want to get out, even Kyogre. Pokemon Fan Club is really good for getting those guys out right when you need them. Roller Skater's good because it's another card that lets you draw. This one you should discard an energy in order to draw more, and this actually works well with the Viridian Forest, because the Viridian Forest can actually get you more water energy when you need it. Tate and Lisa, super versatile, getting 5 cards or switching your bench Pokemon. Having, cards like this that have a dual role are always nice. I think half the time I use it to draw, and half the time I use it to switch. It's just that nice of a card. Okay, back to the big screen for me, and I want to talk about strategies to employ with this deck. There are so many things you can do with this deck. There's no shortage of Pokemon in this deck that can help you win the game. The First one I'm going to talk about is actually Ambipom. Ambipom is a colorless Pokemon that can use Bye-Bye Throw. And we talked about Bye-Bye Throw already. Can't talk right now. Bye-Bye Throw already, where it can deal 120 damage. And quite often, you can get Ambipom out onto your active spot early in the game. If you can get 120 damage consistently at the beginning of the game, your opponent will just quit the game because they will not be able to do anything about it. It is so tough to go against someone that can deal 120 time after time after time. And don't be afraid to discard the cards that you need to get Ambipom's sort of attack out, because that aggressive play is going to, first of all, it's going to shake up your opponent, but it's going to be worth it because you're going to be just knocking out opponent Pokemon after opponent Pokemon. You're going to get prize cards, that's going to be more cards. So I would just go for broke and start just Bye-Bye Throwing the whole time. I've won a number of games just by doing that early on. So I think Ambipom is great to get out if you can get them out with Apom being one of your starting Pokemon or on your bench at the very beginning. Another strategy that I have for this deck is with Golduck, and if you see Relentless Flame in particular. I see Relentless Flame all the time right now, and Charizard is a scary beast to take on, but one Pokemon that fears Charizard completely not is Golduck. Golduck can knock Charizard out with one hit, since his ability, Energy Loop, can deal 80 damage, but Charizard's weak to water, so that's 160 damage. That one hits Charizard out of Relentless Flame. Now, if we're talking about Charizard from Vivid Voltage, not so much. They have 170 HP, which makes it oh so close, but not quite. And there's no Professor Kukui in here to up the damage, so you never get to up the damage in this deck. Actually, that's a wish I think I wish this deck had, was the ability to up damage. But because so often you're like 10 damage away, and you're like, I wish I could just do that little extra damage. But in any case, using Golduck against Relentless Flame or the new Charizard deck or any fire deck is a really smart idea, because Golduck can hit hard and fast before your opponent even knows it. Oh, and one more pro tip with Golduck. Golduck's Energy Loop, what happens is you have to put one energy back into your hand when you use it, which is great because if Golduck gets knocked out, that energy can be used on a different Pokemon. But think about this. They have the draw energy in this deck. Now, draw energy means if you play the draw energy, you get to draw a card. Well, if that's on Energy Loop, you just pick up the draw energy, and if Golduck can use it again, throw it back on Golduck, draw another card. So the draw energy on the draw energy on Golduck can be so useful and annoying too, because your opponents can see you drawing card after card after card, and it's helping you deal damage after damage after damage. And if Golduck gets knocked out, that energy comes back into your hand, which you can use at least one final time. It's just really, really good. I would 100% use the draw energy with Golduck. Now, if you get into a sort of mid-longer game, then I would highly suggest targeting Empoleon as your main Pokemon to use, because Empoleon can just wreck the opponent's bench. A lot of times the opponent's not expecting that a Pokemon can attack the bench. You know, he has the recall ability, so your opponent doesn't really even see what kind of attacks he can do until it's too late, and Empoleon just wrecks everybody with Direct Dive. So Empoleon is amazing, and he's also just stunning against basic Pokemon too, because he has Bubble Hold, which doesn't have to discard anything when used. All you have to do is Bubble Hold a basic Pokemon. They get hit for 80 damage, and they cannot attack you. So good. So amazing. So, the one thing I do have to advise, though, if you don't read a lot of your opponent's cards, if they have Mew out, Mew prevents all damage to the bench. So I've actually had it happen where I didn't notice Mew was there, and I tried to take out somebody. I lost the game because of that move, and for not knowing that Mew prevents damage. So watch out. If Mew's out, you gotta just attack the active Pokemon. In the trainer section, I mentioned Pokemon Communication, and that is a card that is going to be your best friend. You have to play so that you know what you want to come up later. And you don't want to just throw all your Pokemon that you can onto the bench. You're going to want to hold some of those Pokemon so that you can use the Pokemon Communication card to get the Pokemon that you really need. Okay, so you just have to be patient. Like I said, don't throw everybody out and use everybody right away. Hold them back because you might need to use them for Pokemon Communication. I love the Pokemon Communication is just that. You don't need to card flip or anything. You just need to make sure you have another Pokemon card of a Pokemon, not like an item or something like that, or an energy, in your hand before you go. And lastly, for strategies, is take advantage of the Viridian Forest. You know, this deck eats energy. It's like constantly using energy and discarding energy. So you might find that you really need energy. Don't forget that you can throw the Viridian Forest down, turn a card into water energy that you got from your deck. That's going to be a super important thing to remember when you need energy. And even energy for a card like, it's the trainer card, let me look it up real quick, Roller Skater. Because if you discard an energy card, you're going to draw more cards. So if you don't have anything and you have Roller Skater and some of the cards, you can consider using the Viridian Forest in play, and it never goes away unless they play a stadium card, but to get an energy card to discard so you can draw even more with Roller Skate. So there's a lot of these little considerations that you have to sort of think about when you play this deck. Okay, let's talk about wishes for this deck. There are a few things that I completely and utterly wish for when it comes to this deck. Number one is I wish there was an ability to put more than just one energy on a Pokemon at a turn. And I'm not counting Kyogre's High Tide, which ends the turn by getting 2 energy onto him from the discard pile. A card like Beatty would be really good because oftentimes with this deck, you need more energy, especially for a Pokemon like Kyogre or even Empoleon. Sometimes you're like, I just have to put 1 energy on Empoleon and he's ready to go. Well, that's true, but if you really want to use the 130 damage attack against your opposing Pokemon on the active side, you're going to need 2 energy on him. So oftentimes you're like energy looping and discarding energy, so you need to replace the energy. Having a card that lets you just kind of get a slight advantage in energy at one point would be great. And this deck doesn't really have that ability to like lay down a whole bunch of energy on Pokemon. You have to be very deliberate. So I wish you just had like a little bit of a fix like a Beatty so that you can like sneak another energy on a Pokemon. That could be a huge change for this deck to make it just more powerful. You know, another training card that would be good would be the Rescue Stretcher. You know, once a Pokemon is gone from this deck, they are gone. There's no way to get Pokemon out of the discard pile. So, if you had to discard and, you know, stage 1 or 2 evolution, you're not getting that one back. You're gonna better hope that you know, you have another copy in your deck. So, you know, this deck, there's a thin margin when it comes to getting rid of or losing Pokemon. You just have to be very, very wary and just know what's in your deck. So when you have a chance to look through your deck, see which evolutions are in there, know and strategize that way. Also think about what's in your prize pile. What happens if one Empoleon's stuck in prizes and you only see 1 in the deck? So these are things you have to consider. And you're not going to want to discard a card that you think you're going to need. So just be very, very careful of that. There's no way to retrieve cards out of the discard pile with this deck. So those are my main wishes. The only other thing that I would actually really love to have in this deck, and it's a card that I'd love to have in other decks, would be like Pokemon Catcher or Guzma. Now, Direct Dive and Fion essentially do that job, so I guess it's not completely necessary, but being able to pull an opponent's Pokemon out of their bench and get replaced in the front, that can be a very scary situation, and oftentimes an instant knockout or a life-saving sort of time save for you, where they can't do anything since they got pulled. Someone with a high retreat cost got pulled and they don't have a switch. So those are the factors that you need to think about. If you had cards that could switch your opponent's Pokemon. So I really wish that was something that was in this deck. It's not. You just kind of have to live with it. Okay, deck strengths, okay? This deck is incredibly strong. It is such a good deck. And, you know, it's called Unseen Depths because it can do damage that your opponent doesn't see coming. And that's, of course, referring to the Direct Dive. When you have Empoleon out and you Direct Dive, you can knock out bench Pokemon left and right or severely injure them. It is an amazing strategy. You can just surgically, like, pick off the ones you want to get. And it can be maddening for your opponents. If you want to make your opponent mad, do that, because there's nothing they can do against it, and it's just so frustrating. It's happened to me before too, and I'm holding a grudge for sure. So that can happen. That is the huge strength of this deck, and Empoleon, I think I mentioned before, is 160 hit points. Hello, that's a huge amount of hit points. So Empoleon is an absolute beast. Just go ahead and use him to do all the damage you can. And by nature, since this is a water deck, it's great against fire decks, which are super popular right now. You see them all the time. This is a great deck to play online or to bring to a tournament, because when you face fire decks, you can just totally extinguish them with this deck. It doesn't mean you'll be on easy street. It's still going to be hard, because there are Pokemon in some fire decks like Yanmega, I'm looking at you, that are still going to be the bane of your existence. But it gives you a really nice advantage against fire-based decks. So the final thing that I want to say about this deck in terms of strength is it just doesn't have any Pokemon that are completely useless. Like, the new Charizard deck has, Slugma and Macargo. They are useless. You never want either of those, and you just put them out because you have to. There's no Pokemon, even though Piplup is in my lame category, he has an upside because he can turn into Empoleon, the very best beast in this entire deck. So, there are no Pokemon that I'm just like, this is useless. It's just going to be a meat shield. There's nothing I can do with this Pokemon. I don't have that feeling with this deck at all. And it's a really good feeling because, yeah, most of the decks there's a Pokemon or two that are just filler. And this deck doesn't seem like it has any just filler. And I'm so happy about that. So we talked about strengths, and there are a few weaknesses with this deck. I've mentioned before that energy can be a little bit of a problem because there's no way to put multiple energies on your Pokemon, and sometimes you can run out at the worst time. Some Pokemon like Kyogre takes so much energy to power up, you're just like, I need to power this guy up, and you can't do it. Well, Soaring Storm with Dragonite can just lay on all these energies to his fellow team and just annihilate you. So this deck has trouble against decks that are faster in terms of energy. If a deck can get more energy on their Pokemon than you can, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. And speaking of energy, a lot of the Pokemon in this deck, you have to discard the energy when you use the attack. So that makes it tough because, granted, if your Pokemon is still alive and not knocked out, and you want to use it again, you have to put energy back on. Now that's fine if it's like energy loop and you're getting the energy back in your hand, but that means you're still just putting energy back where it used to be, and none of the other Pokemon are benefiting. They're just sitting there with no new energy. So you're discarding all this energy, and you're really only powering up your Pokemon just for that turn to attack again. And that can be like a little bit scary because it feels like you're living on the edge a little bit. It's like, oh, I barely have enough energy to make this deck work. Now the deck does work, but it doesn't alleviate that feeling of I just don't have enough energy. And that's not a good feeling. And so like I said, against the Dragonite deck, if they just start laying down all their energy, you're gonna be in a lot of hurt really, really quick. And finally, with the weaknesses, just like, this deck is great against fire decks, it is kind of weak against grass type decks. So, or even fire type decks like with Yanmega. Yanmega, his U-turn can deal 50 damage. That's like 100 damage against some of the Pokemon in this deck who are weak to grass. They can just be completely annihilated. So, water is inherently weak to grass types in Pokemon, so you're really going to have to watch out for those weaknesses. You could be taken out when you least expect it. So don't get cocky, kid. So there you have it. Those are all the things that I want to let you know about Unseen Depths. It's a lot. There's a lot of information there. It is a strong deck. It is very good. It can stand up and hold up against any deck. I mean, once I've started playing it recently, I haven't wanted to stop. It's just been a lot of fun. I love the fact that there's no completely useless Pokemon in it, and I love just picking off Pokemon in the back of the opponent's bench and them not having anything they can do about it. This deck is really worth giving a try. I am going to give this deck an overall grade of an A. Yes, it does deserve an A. It is a really good deck. Like I said, it's so versatile. There are so many strong Pokemon in this deck. I highly recommend you giving it a try. Put it into a tournament. In fact, I took this into a tournament in a previous video. Check it out. I used this deck in a tournament, and I won the tournament with it. My first tournament win ever was with this deck, and I had only been playing it for like a few times at that point, and it won me a tournament. Amazing. So give this deck a shot. Thanks for watching this entire video. If you've made it this far, I'm just blown away and impressed by you. Thank you so much. Good luck in all your matches. I hope you do really good, and I will see you next time.